David here with Figboot on pens. Today I have something I feel is very cool. It's an overview of a brand new line of pens from the Keras Pen Company. Keras Customs is a company based out of Mesa, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix, which has been around for about 10 years. In 2011, they actually began producing writing instruments under the Keras Pen Company name, and they have been successful at producing a number of different machined metal pens. And in this past year, they actually branched out with their Decograph line to use some different materials other than metals. They wanted to expand their existing offerings and wanted to do so at a lower price point than the other pens that they produce. But they didn't want to come up with and produce a lower quality product. What they came up with is a line of pocket pens called Reaktor. So what I'm going to do today is give a general overview of the new Reaktor line of pens. I'm going to talk about what I care for and what I don't care for. I'll show some size comparisons and provide a writing sample. And I do anticipate this video is going to be a bit longer than a standard review because there is a lot of things to go over in regard to this line. And there are multiple pens. But in the end, I think it'll be worth it for you to get a good overview of what I think is a very interesting new line. Just as a general overview, the Reaktor line is actually comprised of two new pens, and one of them is a fountain pen and one is a rollerball / ballpoint. And each of those pens come in two different versions, each with 4 different models. So I know that sounds confusing, but there's a total of 16 different options currently in their line. And I actually have one of each of those in my possession. We won't go over every single option for each model, but by the end of the video, you're going to have a good idea about what is offered. Just as some backstory, mid-century America and Americana have really played a big role in Keras Customs even before they began making pens. It was at that time in American history when we became obsessed with the space race. It really kind of became embedded in the American culture at the time. And elements of the space race really found their way into lots of new commercial products. Tons of things had space-inspired themes and looks. And the Reaktor line is inspired by this period of America as well. The two pens in the Reaktor line are named the Starlight and the Galaxy as an homage to the Ford cars that had the same names, which were produced in the late 1950s through 1960s. In order to get a closer look at these pens and all of the different options, I think it might be best to move over here to camera 2. Okay, let's take a look at some pens. First, we have the Starlight, and then we have the Starlight XL. Then we have a Galaxy, and we have a Galaxy XL. The Starlighters are both fountain pens, and then the Galaxy XL is a rollerball, and the Galaxy is a ballpoint. There are a number of similarities between these pens, so let's just take a look at the Starlight XL, and then I'll go over how the other models differ. So this is the Galaxy XL. These pens are machined out of 6061 aluminum alloy, which is approximately 95% aluminum, and the other 5% is comprised of a number of other materials. 6061 is one of the most common alloys of aluminum for general purpose use. Each pen in this line comes in 4 different finishes. This one is the silver anodized aluminum with a blue section. Then there is another one that is a silver anodized aluminum with a red section. Then there is an all black version that has a black section. And then there is finally a fully tumbled aluminum pen, and the section is tumbled aluminum as well. So let's just take a closer look at this blue one here. The top of the cap has a small raised peak that you can see here. In profile, it's not very tall, you can see here, but when you're looking at it straight down, I kind of like the look here. It kind of creates an interesting look at it when you're looking straight down at it. I like it. And then at the end of the cap, there are these 3 grooved rings. The clip is thick and rugged, just like on most other Kara's Pen Company pens. And it's affixed to the top of the cap via these 2 screws. I like that these screws that they use are star screws. Get a closer look here. These are star screws. If they were affixed with, you know, kind of like a flathead screw, then like one line would be going this way and one line would be going that way, and that would get a little bit annoying. So having these as star screws, then you really can't notice the orientation, which is nice. The cap is straight, and then it tapers down just slightly at the end, where we have 2 more grooved rings. There is a step down to the barrel, which is straight until about this point here, and that then it tapers down to a single grooved ring. The end of the barrel has a peak mirroring the one on the top of the cap. So, in keeping with the rocket theme, in regard to these rings on the pen, there are 3, 2, and then 1, just likened to a countdown to liftoff. Let's lift off the cap, and within this line of pens, Kara's developed for them a new snap cap mechanism, or new for them. Basically, it's an O-ring on the inside of the cap, and the flare here at the end of the section is what keeps it secure. You know, I wouldn't say that this is a major issue, but on most of the pens I've tested, the caps are just a little loose. Now, they don't rattle, and they're not at risk of coming off. They just have a little more play to them that I would like. Like I said, it's really not an issue. It's just one of those things that down the line, if they wanted to work to perfect this design, that might be an area for improvement. The nib here is a polished steel Bach nib and will be available in sizes extra fine to a 1.5 millimeter stub. For an additional cost, there'll be the option to upgrade to a titanium or even a 14 karat gold nib. And here's a look at the plastic feed. The section is a bit narrow, and it begins with this flare right here, and then angles up. And you know, I don't find that the metal section here is overly slick, which is nice. The cap does post, and it does post securely. And even though this is a metal pen, that since it's a pocket pen and the back of the cap rests on your hand, it really doesn't backweight this pen at all. So you could easily use it posted, or for me, it's long enough to use unposted as well. This is a cartridge converter pen. It does come with a Schmidt K5 converter as well as one Monteverde Black Standard International cartridge. Now, this is the Starlight XL, but there will also be a Starlight version of this pen. You can see here that the Starlight is virtually identical in the looks, except for the Starlight does not have a clip, and it is a slightly shorter pen, as you can see here. Without the clip, it's kind of rolling around a bit, but you can see that it's just slightly shorter as well. Okay, on to the Galaxy. The Galaxy has a very similar design to the Starlight, but there are a few differences. And the first difference is something that I actually really love, which is the top of the cap. The influence behind this design here was the hose fixtures found on astronaut spacesuits. But what it really reminds me of is, I think it really looks like the rim of a fast-spinning car tire. And I really like this finial a great deal. This might actually might be one of my favorite finials or ends of a cap in my whole collection. Now, the caps on these pens are actually interchangeable, so I have found myself using my Starliner fountain pen, but with the cap of my Galaxy, just because I do like that cap here. At the end of the Galaxy's barrel, there are two rings, and when you remove the cap, you can see that this is a roller ball. And the section definitely has a rocket look and feel to it. For the Galaxy, this is the XL, and then this right here is the standard Galaxy. Again, you can see that it's shorter, and also it does not have a clip. And then for the standard Galaxy, this one is actually a roller ball as opposed to the, I'm sorry, it's a ballpoint as opposed to the roller ball that is in the XL. The Galaxy XL will include a Pilot G2 0.5mm black gel refill, and that the Galaxy ballpoint includes a Schmidt 950M pressurized Parker refill. I don't have the packaging, but Keras is designing new packaging for the Reaktor line, and the pen will also arrive with one of these stickers right here. That's kind of cool. Then also, here is a look at, let me set these aside. This is one of the Reaktor notebooks that is going to be included, or that will be available for purchase as well. I really like the space-themed design here. I've always liked the rocket motifs on things. As you could tell by my t-shirt I was wearing, one of my favorite bands is called Rocket from the Crypt. I don't have any tattoos, but I have always said that if I was ever forced to get one, that I would get a rocket logo of Rocket for the Crypt. And like I said, I'm wearing one of my mini Rocket from the Crypt t-shirts today. So yes, I like the layout and looks of this notebook a lot. And it is a dot grid. Okay. In regard to some size comparisons, here is the XL, and then this is the standard size, and that this is what it looks like in regard to a Pilot Prera. And then here it is with another pocket pen, which is the Pilot Stella 90S or Stargazer. Then here it is with a Kaweco Skyline Sport and a Pilot Metro. And then something a little bit larger. Here it is with a Mont Blanc 149. Okay, how about a writing sample? For the sake of time, I'm not going to show all of the different nibs. This particular model here has a medium nib, so let's just take a look at this. What we have here is the Keras Pen Company. And this is the Reaktor. And this is the Skyline, or the, I'm sorry, the Starliner XL. And this particular nib is a medium steel nib. That it is a Bach nib. And the ink that they're using today is Colorverse Extra Dimensions. This is what the ink looks like. That it's, you know, I laid it on rather heavy here, but it is a rather dark kind of blue-black, that it's more just a very dark blue. This is what it looks like in comparison to something like the Yardle Lead blue-black. And then here it is with a Papier Plume Midnight Blue, which is not quite as dark as the Extra Dimension. If you haven't seen it before, this is what the Colorverse bottles look like. They're really cool, and they typically come in, or they do come in, 2-bottle sets. This particular one comes with another ink, which is a blue that's a little bit lighter, that's called Warped Passages. So these come in a set. But they're pretty cool inks. So here we go with the rest of the writing sample. I find that this Bach nib is very pleasant, that you can get a little bit of line variation out of here if you press it a bit. You can get a bit out of there, and that I found that the ink flow on this particular medium nib is very nice. In regard to some reverse writing, I can't say that the ink flow is fantastic on that, but it is like kind of like an extra fine line. And in regard to some fast writing, I haven't had any issues at all. Actually, here, let's go ahead and get rid of this just so we have a blank sheet to look at. There was a concerted effort by Keras to be as lean and efficient as possible in the production of these pens in order to keep their production costs down. Over time, they've experienced a higher number of errors in the annotation process with specific colors more than others. So for this line of pens, they only offer the colors that have had a higher success rate and lower waste rates. As someone who works with developing process improvements in my work life, things like that really stand out to me. I almost geek out over process improvements more than pens. Well, maybe not more than pens, but I really do like hearing about them a great deal and what companies do in order to improve their processes. There's not going to be a manual or a user guide that's going to come with these pens, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I really can't recall the last time I ever really needed to actually refer to one. So having the information available online as they plan to provide it works for me. It actually saves the expense of actually producing a little manual. Okay, in regard to price, here are the 4 options. We have the Starliner XL and the Starliner, and then we have the Galaxy XL and the Galaxy. And the way these pens are going to be priced is that they'll be priced at $55 and then $50 and then $45 and $40. So I think that that's actually very reasonable. And as an added bonus, the shipping for these pens will be free for all domestic U.S. orders, and international shipping is just going to be a flat $15. So that makes these pens even more reasonable. I feel that this is a really good price point for this line, and I don't mind the things that Keras has done to kind of become more lean and efficient in the production of these pens in order to keep their production costs down. In regard to the release dates for these pens, they are looking to release the Starliner XL and the Galaxy XL in late June or early July of this year. And then the Starliner and the Galaxy we're going to be launching in either late July or early August. So, okay. That was a lot of info, but I hope it was interesting enough in taking a rather in-depth look at this new line of pens. In the end, I'm really impressed by this line. I feel that they are well built, they perform well, and they look pretty cool. On top of that, I feel that they are at a very reasonable price point. So yeah, these would be pens that I would recommend folks check out. And I'm really interested to see how the rest of the community reacts to the Reaktor line. Thanks will go out again to Keras for providing me with these pens for review. At a later point in time, I'll be giving some of these pens away, so look for that in the future. But I didn't want to do that until after the pens were released and available for purchase. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.